Warning: what you are about to see may be graphic and has very bad language in it. So I suggest if you're under the age of 13 not to watch this video. But, if you want to, then go ahead. Let's roll the clip. Yeah, I just don't want to be blocking this sidewalk here, so.
Headquarters Medic 1. Headquarters Medic 1, be advised all units are on scene Legion Square from the parade detail.
10, 4, all units stand by.
Alright, I'm gonna lock this up quick and...
Attention all units, all stations. Priority hold is now in effect. All radio traffic is to be held. The following New York emergency responders are not present and accounted for. Chief Peter J. Garcia Jr.
Yeah. If you want,
Commissioner
tune
William
into our radio
N.
channel too.
Freehand.
I have an extra
Marshal
reporter we'll
Ronald
hear.
Paul Buca. Chaplain Michael Judge. Chief Gerard A. Barbara. Chief Donald J. Burns. Chief Matthew Lancelot Ryan. Lieutenant Paul Thomas Mitchell. Chief William McGroven. Chief Richard Prutney. Faustin Apostle Jr. Lieutenant Thomas O'Hagan. Chief John Paul Williams. Chief Oreo Palmer. Lieutenant Stephen G. Harrell. Lieutenant Philip Scott Petty. Chief Thomas Patrick D. Angles. Thomas McCann. Chief Dennis Lawrence Devlin. Chief Edward F. Jargotti. Lieutenant Charles William Garbani. Carl Asoro. Alan D. Feinberg. Chief John M. Palio. Chief Frederick Claude Scaffold Jr. Lieutenant Charles Joseph Maggiotti. Lieutenant Jeffrey E. Gujo. Lieutenant Anthony Jovic. Chief Joseph Grislack. Michael Leopoldo Bocchino. Chief John Moran. Chief Lawrence T. Stack. Chief Dennis Cross. Chief Joseph Ross Marchbanks Jr. Captain Joseph F. Fairley. Captain Thomas Moody. Captain Timothy M. Stackpole. Chief Thomas Theodore Haskell Jr. Captain Martin J. Egan Jr. Captain William O'Keefe. Lieutenant Andrew Desperito. Michael T. Weinberg. Calixto Anya Jr. James C. Riches. Thomas J. Scolas. Paul A. Tegmeller. Manuel Del Val Jr. Paul Byer. Thomas Holohan. William R. Johnston. Robert Perrow. Lieutenant Greg Arthur Atlas. Jeffrey James Olson. Paul Pensini. Captain William Francis Burke Jr. Thomas Anthony Casoria. Michael J. Alferis. Vincent D. Kane. Martin E. McWilliams. Robert McPadden. James Nicholas Peppergojo. Hector Louis Torrado Jr. Mark P. Whitford. Captain Thomas Farino. Donna R. Hannon. Robert W. Spear Jr. Lieutenant Kevin Pfeiffer. David Arce. Michael Boyley. Robert Evans. Keithry Marcelius Maynard. John Gallardo. Lieutenant John F. Ginley. Kevin Bracken. Michael D. Aria. Bruce Gary. Michael F. Lynch. Stephen Marcedo. Paul John Gill. Jose Guadalupe. Leonardo Regalia. Christopher Santoro. Lieutenant Peter L. Freund. Robert Lane. Christopher Mazzillo. Stephen P. Russell. Lieutenant Robert B. Nagel. Ruben D. Sorial. Lieutenant Paul Richard Martini. Gregory Joseph Buck. Christopher Pickard. John Albert Start. Lieutenant Robert Francis Wallace. Carl Henry Joseph. Sean Edward Powell. Kevin O'Reilly. Lieutenant Carl John Bettigan. John Joseph Florio. Michael Edward Roberts, Kenneth Thomas Watson, Daniel Sir, Lieutenant Kenneth Felian, Stephen Coakley, Neil Joseph Levy, John Chapura, David Paul DiRubio, Brian McAllister, Stanley S. Smagla Jr., Lieutenant Brian G. Ahem, Frank Bonomo, Michael Scott Carlo, Jeffrey Stark, Eugene Wheeling, Edward James White III, Lieutenant Stephen Bates, Nicholas Paul Schifero, Francis Esposito, Lee S. Fehling, Lawrence G. Viling, Lieutenant Glenn E. Wilkinson, Ronnie Lee Henderson, Michael Raguso, Anthony Rodriguez, Raymond R. York, Chief John Fanning, Lieutenant A. John Skrisky, Dennis M. Carey, Martin N. DeMio, Thomas Gardner, Jonathan R. Homan, Dennis Skuzgo, Kevin Joseph Smith, Captain Frederick III Jr., Michael J. Clark, George G. Pascal, Dennis P. Garman, Daniel Edward Harlan, Carl Molino, Dennis Michael Mulligan, Captain Patrick J. Brown, Lieutenant Kevin W. Donnelly, Michael Carroll, James Raymond Cole, General Dewin, Jeffrey John Giordano, Joseph Maloney, John Kevin McAdie, Timothy Patrick McSweeney, Joseph J. O'Green, Stephen John Olson, Captain David Terrace Woolley, Lieutenant Daniel O'Callaghan, Joseph Anagilio Jr., Peter Brennan, Michael E. Brennan, Michael Hobb, Michael F. Lynch, Samuel Otis, John James Tipping II, Lieutenant Vincent Francis Guillermo, Lieutenant Michael Wircho, Louis Arena, Andrew Brunn, Thomas Hannafin, Paul Hanlon Keating, John A. Santor, Gregory Thomas Cicito, Captain Vernon Allen Richard, George Kane, Robert Joseph Fody, Charles Mendez, Richard Moldoni Jr., Vincent Princioto, Lieutenant Vincent Gerald Hahn, Gerald Baptiste, John P. Tierney, Jeffrey P. Ways, Sean Patrick Talon, Lieutenant Michael Quilty, Michael F. Camarta, Edward James Day, John F. Henryman, Richard John Kelly Jr., Robert King Jr., Matthew Rogan, Angel Lay Jaribu Jr., Michael D. Mullen, Captain Walter G. Hines, Thomas Hetzel, Dennis McHagan, Thomas Isabella, Gregory Stajic, Lieutenant Joseph Gerald Levy, Richard Leonard Allen, Arthur Thetis Berry, Thomas W. Kelly, Scott Coptico, Scott Larson, Douglas E. Ulstergeiger, Eric T. Olson, Lieutenant Raymond E. Murphy, Robert Cauto, Captain John R. Fisher, John Patrick Burnside, James Michael Garay, Sean S. Hanley, David Langford, Robert Thomas Lanane, Robert D. McComan, Gerald T. Atwood, Gerald Duffy, Keith Glasgow, Joseph Henry, William E. Kurkowski, Benjamin Serez, Captain Daniel J. Brethel, Stephen Elliott Belson, Lieutenant Glenn C. Perry, Matthew Barnes, John Michael Collins, Kenneth Crumpel, Robert Minera, Joseph Pavelli, Paul G. Ruback, John Marshall, Captain Frank Callahan, James Andrew Gibson, Vincent S. Morello, Michael Otten, Michael Roberts, Joseph Splott Jr., Michael Alexander Belfort, Lieutenant Joseph Gullickson, Patrick Brine, Salvatore B. Calabro, Brian Canizo, Thomas J. Kennedy, Joseph Maffeo, A. McShane, Captain Vincent Brunton, Thomas Richard Kelly, Henry Alfred Miller, Dennis Oberg, Frank Anthony Palumbo, Lieutenant Christopher P. Sullivan, Lieutenant Robert M. Reagan, Joseph Angolo, Vernon Paul Cherry, Scott Matthew Davidson, Leon Smith Jr., Peter Anthony Vega, Christian Michael Odo Rigarhard, Andrew Jordan, Michael Kiefer, Thomas Minigone, Sean T. Viogone, Sergei Villeneuve, Michael Joseph Colley, Captain Terrace S. Halton, Lieutenant Dennis Mojico, Joseph Angelino, Gary Geidel, William Henry, Kenneth Joseph Marino, Michael Montesi, Gerald Tailsnading, Patrick J. O'Keefe, Brian Edward Sweeney, David M. Weiss, Lieutenant Peter C. Martin, William David Lake, Daniel F. Librate, John Napolitano, Kevin O'Rourke, Lilcone Quape, Edward Rowell, Christopher Joseph Blackwell, Thomas Foley, Thomas Cabino Jr., Raymond Meismeyer, Donald J. Reagan, Gerard Patrick Schrang, Captain Brian Hankey, Lieutenant Kevin Dowdell, Terrace Patrick Farrell, William J. Mahoney, Peter Allen Nelson, Durrell V. Purcell, Captain Louis Joseph Modefi, Lieutenant Harville, Lieutenant Maskell, John P. Bergen, Carl Vincent Vaney, Michael Curtis Floor, Andre J. Fletcher, Douglas Charles Miller, Jeffrey Matthew Plazo, Nicholas P. Ramado, Alan Taswick, Robert J. Crawford, Chief Raymond Matthew Downey, Chief Charles Casper, Captain Patrick J. Walters, Lieutenant Timothy Higgins, Lieutenant Michael Thomas Russo, Captain James A. Mamato, Lieutenant Edward, Lieutenant Michael Fedor, Brian Blitcher, Gary Box, Thomas N. Butler, Peter Carroll, Robert Curtis, David J. Fontana, Matthew David Garvey, Stephen Jared Siller, Lieutenant William E. McGinn, Eric Allen, Andrew Fredericks, David Hardman, Timothy Haskell, Manuel Majico, Lawrence Virgo, Lieutenant Michael K. Healy, Thomas Patrick Cohen III, Robert Hamilton, Michael J. Loyens, Gregory Sikorski, R. Bruce Van Hine, Terrell Coleman, Thomas Coolidge, Peter J. Lagone, Patrick Leons, Kevin Pryor, Lieutenant Ronald T. Kerwin, Ronnie E. Geis, Joseph Hunter, Jonathan Lee LePay, Adam David Rand, Timothy Matthew Welty, Paramedic Carlos R. Leo, Paramedic Ricardo J. Quinn, Superintendent Ferdinand V. Marone, Chief James A. Romito, Lieutenant Robert G. Searcy, Inspector Anthony P. Infinite Jr., Captain Kathy Nancy Maza, Sergeant Robert M. Colfers, Donald James McClentry, Walter Arthur McNeil, Joseph Michael Navas, James Nelson, Alfonso J. Midemir, James Wendell Farman, Dominic A. Pizzulo, Antonio J. Rodriguez, Richard Rodriguez, Bruce Albert Reynolds, Christopher C. Armaso, Maurice V. Berry, Clinton Davis Sr., Donald A. Foreman, Greg J. Forner, Uro Ganga Houston, George G. Howard, Thomas E. Gorman, Stephen Huzko Jr., Paul Williams Jurgens, Liam Calhoun, Paul Lazonique, David Producio Lemigny, John Joseph Lennon Jr., John Dennis Levy, James Francis Lynch, John P. Scala, Wallowin W. Stewart Jr., Kenneth F. Tijitin, Nathaniel Webb, Michael T. Holy, Sergeant Timothy A. Roy, Sergeant John Gerald Coughlin, Sergeant Rodney C. Gills, Sergeant Michael S. Curtis, Joseph V. Vergano, Claude Daniel Richards, Murray Ann Smith, Raymond Serraz, Paul Talty, Santo Valentin Jr., Walter E. Weaver, Ronald Philip Clofer, Johannes M. Lagone, James Patrick Leahy, Brian Grady McDonald, John William Perry, Glenn Karen Pettit, John D. Allera, Vincent Dans, Jerome M. P. Dominguez, Stephen P. Diskrell, Mark Joseph Ellis, Robert Fazio Jr.
Thank you, Dispatch. First off, I want to thank everyone for coming out here, helping us with this event. Many of you probably remember exactly where you were, what you were doing when you found out about the events that happened today. If we go back 18 years and one night, 246 people went to sleep in preparation for the morning flights. 2,606 people went and sleep in preparation for work in the morning. 343 firefighters went to sleep in preparation for the morning shift. 60 police officers went to sleep in preparation for the morning patrol. 8 paramedics went to sleep in preparation for their morning shift. None of them saw past 10 a.m. on September 11th, 2001. In one single moment, life may never be the same. As you live and enjoy the breaths you take tonight, before you go to sleep in preparation for your life tomorrow, kiss the ones you love, snuggle a little tighter, never take 1 second for granted. I ask now we all bow our heads, have a moment of silence for the ones that we lost. Thank you.
Just real quick before we depart. Just a reminder, 9/11 is still affecting us today. 22 names of fallen firefighters and paramedics and several Leo were added to the 9/11 memorial this morning. As a result of complications from 9/11 related illnesses, cancer, mesothelioma, and others. This is something that will continue to affect our nation and those around us for decades to come. Let's keep those folks in our thoughts and prayers as well.
If anyone else has anything else they'd like to add or say, feel free to go right ahead. Okay. I appreciate everyone helping us put this together and coming out. Now we can all go ahead and return on duty.
Okay.
Headquarters, Medic 1.